Welcome back to your Pig Shell Show. Will Monclair alongside Kevin McPherson for your Hog Hoops Report. Kevin, the 2023 NBA Draft is in the books. We've been talking about this for months now. Let's start things off with, do you think it played out the way that you believed it would play out?
For the most part, it did. I knew Anthony Black was going to be a lottery pick and a top 10 pick who had inched his way closer to that top five. Check. I knew Nick Smith Jr. was going to be a first round draft pick. Check. However, I did think Nick would go sooner than he did. And he probably had the widest range of projections when you looked at late lottery, somewhere in the teens, somewhere in the 20s. So I'm not going to take credit for projecting him as a first round pick. I think that was a no brainer. So that did happen.
Yeah,
And then
I
with
agree with you
Jordan,
there.
we knew that the combine helped him. We knew, he was maybe the last player to decide on that deadline of May 31st to stay in the draft or come back to school. And I think he made the right decision. Number 38 to your Boston Celtics.
Yes, sir.
So, I felt like Jordan would go in the second round, maybe, late 30s, mid 40s is what we were talking about. So that hit about right. I did think Ricky Council, I did feel like even if it was in the 50 to 60 range, that he had a good chance of being drafted in that second round. He did not, but very quickly announced a two-way contract with the Philadelphia 76ers. And I think that's interesting. Sometimes you don't want to be drafted if a team doesn't have a plan for you. If it's in the 50 to 60 range, you might ward off teams if you've got something lined up with the team that either doesn't have a pick in that range or has a plan for you. And so we don't know all those details. What we do know is very quickly his two-way deal was announced with the Sixers. So I think for Ricky Council IV, even though technically he wasn't drafted, the fact that he wasn't drafted was not a big surprise. So, for the most part, this landed like I thought it would.
Yeah.
And, having been up there and covered it too, and being on the ground, getting interviews with Anthony Black, Nick Smith Jr., Eric Musselman the day before the draft, and getting to be with those guys throughout the day at different times. And then to be at the draft and inside the building for the draft was quite an experience this last week, because I really had the bird's eye view, if you will, of everything that was going on and hearing all kinds of rumors about what might happen. But at the end of the day, things landed pretty much where we thought they would. And so there's a lot of excitement around it. It's kind of like one of those, NBA draft is an event.
Yeah,
You hear about
absolutely.
March
Kevin, it looked like
Madness,
you and
the
Courtney
Super
had a
Bowl.
great time over there.
Yeah,
But
Courtney Mims did a great job. Her
she always
energy
does.
and ability to get through a long day kind of helped me get through some of those long days
Oh
as
yeah.
well. But I'm not complaining, man. It was a ton of fun. My first NBA draft to attend, but also to cover like that, and a lot of excitement. And by the way, we're not done talking about the draft with Eric Musselman. 2 o'clock Zoom press conference tomorrow on Monday for a
Yep.
recap. So and you got to think about it. Arkansas was one of had three players selected. Only one other school, UCLA, could brag and say they had as many as three players in that draft. So it was great branding, great marketing. Arkansas adds three guys via draft, one on a two-way contract. By the way, Ricky Council IV on that two-way, he's going to get plenty of opportunities to come up. He'll have some opportunities to come up and be on the 15-man roster at times through this next season with the Sixers. And he'll probably get some game time. So you've got four new Pro Hogs that are going to get NBA clock on top of the six that we covered so heavily last year. So Arkansas now is on that, right around 10 NBA players. That is a really good place to be for Eric Musselman, because not only did he have three guys in this draft, one that signed the two-way deal to make four, but he also had in the last three drafts as a new Arkansas coach, starting with Isaiah Joe, then Moses Moody going in the lottery, then Jalen Williams last year, early second round. All three of those guys have made headway in the NBA and made their marks and not just been guys that got drafted. They've actually contributed to success in the NBA for their teams. And so you just dumped a whole bunch more guys in there in one draft. I think Eric Musselman wants to talk about this tomorrow. Looking forward to be able to recap it. But I'm glad we're doing that again today, because as much coverage as we put out, it's still fresh.
No, it seriously is. It's the
important.
talk of the town. Kevin, I want to ask you, out of these four new Pro Hogs that we have to talk about, who do you think found themselves in the best situation for them?
Wow. That's a great question.
It's a loaded one.
And I think it might be a tie. I think it might be a tie between Anthony Black and Nick Smith Jr. And here's why. When you're taking sixth overall, these are teams that typically need help immediately. You're a player that they're not coveting just for the future, but for the near future, the immediate. And I think Anthony Black's going to step into a situation for a very young team with a lot of positional size. So he was the next step in adding more positional size, a 6'7" point guard. You look at Paulo Banchero, 6'10", 6'11", NBA Rookie of the Year last year. There's a lot of good players on this team already, but they're very young, but a lot of size, athleticism, versatility. And you saw them. And here's a team, I'm going to bring your Boston Celtics up. In the regular season, they had the Celtics number. Here's a championship caliber team, and the Magic found ways, even though it was regular season, to give that. So you start to see glimpses. So Anthony Black steps into a situation where they might just start turning a corner and start threatening playoffs like Oklahoma City did a year ago out of the blue. Nobody expected that. The Magic could be that next team, and Anthony Black's going to be a feature player. You don't pick a guy 6 to come off the bench. I'm not saying that he's going to immediately be in the starting lineup 1,000% guaranteed, but I think that's the plan. And if I know Anthony Black like I think I do, watching everything he's done, he's up for that moment. Now, he steps into a great situation, but I think Nick Smith Jr. does as well. Charlotte's been an organization that has struggled. He's the kind of guy that I think was way undervalued when you look at where he went in the draft, the pick number 27. 11 guards went ahead of him. I have to almost laugh at that. And we know what his journey was fighting to be a Razorback. It probably cost him money early, but it's also about opportunity. And I think he's going to get plenty of opportunity in Charlotte. So I think, in a sense, he's in a great position because there's an organization that doesn't have, they've got a rising star at point guard, one of the Ball brothers. We know that, Melo. And then they've got some other guys, some veterans in that back court. But Nick Smith Jr. can carve out a niche, even if it's not a starting niche initially. He may be able to work himself in fairly short order, maybe into the top 3 of that guard rotation, being a combo. And I think he's going to get plenty of opportunity. I could see, and Musselman said this in our interview, Will, when we got him in Manhattan on Wednesday. Courtney and I sat down with him. And
good interview to go watch if you haven't seen it already.
Yeah, go see it. But he told us, Anthony Black and Nick Smith Jr., he envisions pathways for those guys to eventually be an NBA All-Stars. I think the talent's there, and I think floor IQ, some of the measurables, even Nick at 6'5", that 6'9" wingspan, that'll help him as he improves and learns how to defend on the NBA level. But I think both of those guys, I think Musselman's right about that. We're not predicting they're going to be All-Stars, but what we're saying is you could see a path for that. Not for one Razorback, but for 2 in this draft. And that was pre-draft where they went. Well, now that I look at the destinations and who got them, I definitely think there's plenty of opportunities for those guys to build stuff early and establish themselves early. So I think they both, I would say in some ways, it's almost equal the opportunity that they were able to land in by those selections.
Yeah, absolutely, Kevin. Now, I'm excited to see all these guys in Summer League. Jordan Walsh, hearing Brad Stevens talk about him, the impact that he believes he could make immediately defensively and offensively in the years to come. It'll be exciting to see what he accomplishes up there in Massachusetts. I'm definitely going to be a fan of that. We've been talking about Grant Nelson for a while now. Obviously, he goes over there to Alabama. But we did have a little news this week on that last scholarship, Chandler Lawson coming out of Oregon, right? How do you think that's going to go?
Yeah, so Chandler started at Oregon. He started his career there. He played 2 seasons at Oregon, transferred to his hometown Memphis, and played for Penny Hardaway and the Tigers the last 2 years. So he's a grad transfer. This is a guy that's got 1 more year of eligibility, a 5th year. We know because of COVID. If you were in college basketball when all that stuff went down in the shutdown at the end of the one season and in a scaled down following season in 2021, if you were caught up in that, you got that extra year. And this is his extra year. Grad transfer, immediate eligibility, so it didn't matter that he got in the portal after that May 11 deadline, and he wasn't a first-time transfer anyway. But this is a guy at 6'8", combo forward, 7 foot plus wingspan. And, he's not a guy that's been a big numeric guy when you look at averages and stats. But I do think he's a guy that helps Arkansas in ways that Eric Musselman likes it. He likes defensive versatility, guys with length, guys that can plug in at the 4 in small ball. You might be able to get away with him some on the wing. He doesn't take a high volume of threes. less than a half, maybe about a 3 attempt every 2 games. But last year he was 7 of 14. He made 50% of the 14 attempts. So you like guys that understand what lane they need to stay in. You don't want him taking a lot of threes, and when he did, he was competent. But I think it's other things. Maybe he can get on the glass a little bit for you. I don't know what kind of minutes expectations Arkansas fans should have, but Arkansas really loaded up in the portal in that backcourt when you looked at April, and they brought 5 guys on. 4 of the 5 were definite, some kind of version of a 1-2 or combo. Jeremiah Davenport at 6'6", 6'7", maybe a 3-4 combo, but more of a shooter from the perimeter. And this guy gives you a little different versatility, because maybe it's more about defense, obviously, than it is about perimeter shooting. So I think this was a good pickup for Arkansas. You're talking about now we're into late June. You're just really trying to fill out the roster at this point. And I'm going to tell you, Will, I don't think Arkansas is quite done in the portal. I think we're going to see an announcement in the next 48 hours.
Okay.
As soon as the next 48 hours of another addition out of the portal, keep an eye on that. I've been talking about it for a while, but I don't think Arkansas is quite done and wrapped up yet in portal recruiting. But I love what they have already. And Chandler Lawson, I think, just adds to it. I'm not expecting him to be a superstar on this team, but I'm expecting him in this addition in Lawson and the announcement that's likely to come up. I always think back to a guy like Trey Wade, who really helped Arkansas and eventually became a starter. Not a heavy production guy consistently, but a guy that just made the team tougher, helped set a tone. And so you need guys to be role players. Not everybody has to have the role of big scorer, big this and that. Sometimes you need guys that are plug and play, and it's the little things they do to help you become a better team. I think Chandler Lawson brings that, and I think this next edition that we're going to hear about soon will also help check that box.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, Kevin, as an insider, I understand that there's a lot of things that you can't tell us in order to continue getting this sort of information. But as a little teaser, could I ask you what position group maybe you'd be excited to potentially see on this roster? And I'm going to understand if you say that we can't talk about that either.
Well, I kind of just did. I've been focusing a lot with this, with what Arkansas might do next on that 3-4 combo, that small ball versatility, be able to. And so I think they might stay in that lane with this next announcement that we hear. So that's that, small ball 4, maybe you have them on the floor with 2 other bigs and 2 guards, but that versatility that Musselman has, I think Chandler Lawson checks that box. And again, I think who they might be bringing in or should be bringing in or what we should hear soon will also check that same positional box.
Thank you, Kev. I can't wait to hear what that news is on Friday, but that's all the time we have. We're going to go to break. More Pig Trail after this.